What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the vlog. We are on day number 8 in Texas, and we are up $3,147. Running up the cash game streets right now, and we're going to try to keep that going, hopping into the 1-2 streets. Let's go! We're playing 1-2 Texas Hold'em, ladies and gentlemen, and we are at Texas Card House, Dallas. And let me tell you, the first hour or so of the session was extremely quiet. I would just lose small pots here and there. So I ended up adding on for $175, and now is where the action starts. Our first notable hand we get into, we look down at pocket jacks. We're in the cutoff. The hijack makes the limp, aka just calls the $2. I'm going to raise it up to $20, and we get a call from the hijack and the button. So 3 ways to a flop, which gives us an overpair, good-looking 10-8-3 with 2 spades. When the hijack checks to me, I'm going to be betting here. I have an overpair that needs protection, so I bet out around half pot for $35, and we get 1 customer on the button. So we're going heads up to a turn card, which is another good-looking one for us, the 7 of clubs. It's a card under our pair, and it doesn't bring in the front door flush draw. A couple straights get there, like Jack 9. We have 2 jacks in our hand, making it way less likely our opponent will be holding the nuts. So I'm going to continue pumping money in the middle here. There's 133 in the middle. I'm going to size up. I make it $105. And the button thinks about it for a short while here before deciding to go all in for $250. I'm not going to be folding my jacks here. We're going to be ahead of a lot of different combo draws and maybe 10x that wants to jam here. But I put in the call, and our opponent asks if we want to run it twice. I usually don't care. I just say whatever is up to them. He decides to run it twice. And the first river comes the king of diamonds. The second river comes the jack of diamonds. And he shows us King 10. So he sucked out on us the first board. Good thing we decided to run it twice there. We got it in way ahead there. He only had 5 outs. Unfortunately, he hit one. But that's all right. We're going to move on and chop up that pot. A downgrade from pocket jacks, we look down at pocket 4s, the sailboats. The low jack limps, we're in late position. We're going to raise it $15, and he puts in the call. So we're going to go heads up to a flop in position, which comes not too bad for us. Jack 4-9 with 2 hearts. We flop bottom set. A beautiful sight to see. The low jack checks to me, and I'm going to be betting here. I'm trying to get as much money as I can in here. Hopefully, he has some kind of piece of this board. I bet $15. And he doesn't take too long before putting in the call. I'm hoping to get a big pot brewing, especially when the turn comes to 9 of spades. We now improve to a full house. When he checks to me, I'm going to be betting here, but the question is what size? I don't think we want to bet too big because we want to keep his draws in there. Now that we have a full house, we want him to hit that draw and then pay us off on the river. So I decide on a bit of a smaller size of $25. This will allow him to float with all of his flush and straight draws, and who knows, maybe he has a 9. I mean, we'll get the money in anyway, but he puts in the call, and we see a river, which is the 8 of clubs. It brings in the most obvious straight draw, which would be Queen 10. So when he checks it over to me for a 3rd time, I'm hoping he has a jack or a 9 or something to pay us off here. So I bet out $105, and the low jack decides to put in the call. We show him our full house, and he does not look too happy. He mucks his cards. Scooping in a nice pot there, and we're going to move right along here. Pocket 9s. The pocket pairs galore today. I make it $15, and the cutoff decides on a min click to $30. When the action gets back over to me, I just decide to stick in the call, but that was before I looked over at his stack, and he only has about 120 left behind. With pocket 9s here, I feel like we just want to run it for $150 because there's so many flops that we're just going to check fold. Either way, I stick in the call, and I guess flopping sets is easy because ace 9-5 comes on the flop. We have middle set. I'm not going to be leading into him on an ace-high board, so I check it over to him, and he bets out a 1/3 the size of the pot for $20. Do we want to go for the check raise here? The board is so dry. He's not going to have any weird gut shots or anything like that. And like I mentioned earlier, he only has about 100 left behind, so I think it's going to be pretty easy to get that in on later streets. So I stick in the call and see a turn card, which is the king of hearts. Once again, I check it over to him. I'm just hoping to see him put the money in here with ace king, ace queen. But when he decides to check back, it makes me think that there's going to be a tough time getting value on the river. He might have a hand like pocket queens, jacks, 10s. So we're going to go to a river card, which is the 10 of spades. Not the best card in the world, like I mentioned. Now we lose to pocket 10s, and who knows, maybe he had a hand like queen jack. But we can't be scared of the monsters under the bed. I'm going to bet out. He only has 100 left. I think going for all of it might be a little bit greedy here. When he checks back the turn, he's going to be pretty weak. So I just bet half pot for $50. Maybe he puts a crying call in with a king or like pocket queens. When he decides to go all in, it's pretty gross. I ain't going to fold though. And he shows us pretty sick here, guys. Pocket 10s. He rivered a set over set here. That's okay. Luckily, we didn't lose more than about $150. If he was a lot deeper, we definitely could have gone broke on that one. Moving right along here, Queen 10 off on the small blind. And let me tell you, this is a little bit of an unorthodox play. I do not recommend this. Maybe there's a little tilt coming in from the last hand. But the low jack makes it $15 and the cutoff puts in the call. And I'm in the small blind, and for some reason I decided to stick in the call here. Playing a multi-way pot out of position with Queen 10 off is not ideal, but I put in the call and the big blind called as well. And I guess we get rewarded for bad plays because the flop comes 10-10-6 with 2 hearts. We flop trips. So sick, man. When the action checks over to the low jack, he decides to bet out for $40. This was the original raiser. I'm hoping he has a hand like pocket jacks through pocket aces. So when the action gets to me, I'm going to go for a check raise here. I make it $110. The big blind quickly folds, and now the low jack decides to pay us off. He goes all in for 300. Snap call from me. And he asks if I have a 10. That's always a good sign, right? We get the run out. It's a 3 and a jack. We show our cards, and he's going to muck. He looks extremely disappointed, so I would assume he had aces, kings, or queens. A pretty big blunder pre-flop, but what are you going to do? Our stack is building. I think we're finally in the green. I'm on the button here with king jack off, and the middle position player raises to $20 with a low jack caller in between. The action is over to me. I love squeezing hands here on the button, try and play heads up. I think learning how to be aggressive in poker is a great way to improve. I think king jack offsuit here is a little bit light, but either way I 3-bet to $85. You want to typically 3-bet suited combos here. Either way, the original raiser folds, which is good, but the low jack decides to stick in the call. And here's a note on this guy. He just lost a massive pot, and he is fuming. So hopefully we can hit a flop, and he'll punt off to us. We're going heads up to a bingo flop, which is king, king, 5, 2 clubs. We flop trips. So sick, man. So when he checks it over to me, I think this is a board I'm going to bet with my entire range here. It's extremely dry. So I'm going to pick a small sizing here. I make it $65, and the low jack quickly puts in the call. I'm hoping he has a piece, and I'm hoping we can get his entire stack. The turn comes to 4 clubs here, and he checks it over to me. I went between checking and betting here. We do have the jack of clubs, which is definitely nice to have in this spot. I do like a bet here, actually, with a club. I think without a club, we could definitely exercise some pot control, and especially against a player that's fuming, we want to just try and get all the money in. I think in the moment, I was just scared of getting check raised here and being in a tough spot, so actually, I decided to check back, leading us to a blank on the river, 3 of diamonds, and when he checks it over to me for a 3rd time, we're definitely going for value here. Hopefully going to try to get paid off by a hand like pocket 9s or pocket 8s. I decided to go just about half pot, $155, praying for him to put in the call. But after a while of deliberation, he does decide to put in the call. We show him the trips, and he's not too stoked on that. The dealer pushes the pot our way, and we are going to scoop a nice one here. We've acquired our first Texas Card House $100 chips. Let's go. Real quickly, if you guys are looking for a place to play online, come play on my club GG. There's 24/7 action. You can play anywhere in the world at any time. And for 24 hours, there's a deposit bonus if you use code GILJACK when you message for chips. All the details are in the description. Definitely check it out. I hope I see you there. We have ace jack of diamonds here in the low jack. The middle position limps, and the price of poker is gonna go up $20. And the small blind and middle position players put in the call. So we're gonna go 3 ways to a flop here. We're in position, and the flop comes king 10-9, rainbow with 1 diamond. We have a gut shot to Broadway and overcard and a backdoor flush draw. When the small blind checks it over to the middle position player, he decides to donk into me for $40. I would expect them to check to the pre-flop aggressor, but that's not how it goes here in Texas, man. They do what they want when they want. So he bets out for $40. It's about 2/3 the size of the pot, but we have a gut shot to the nuts and some backdoor draws. So I do decide to stick in the call here. I actually wouldn't mind a raise because being the pre-flop raiser, this is going to hit my range way more than his. But I stick in the call to evaluate a turn card. The turn now definitely gives us more outs. It's the 6 of diamonds, and our opponent decides on the same exact bet size for $40. Now, in my experience playing live poker, when our opponents do this, it means that they are weak. Like they have a weak 1 pair holding, and they're just trying to get to showdown cheaply. So when he does this, I'm feeling weakness. He has about $300 total, so I decide to go all in for $300 effective. You might be thinking this line doesn't make too much sense, and I completely agree with you. Calling the flop and then like over jamming the turn seems like it'd be a draw a lot of the time, but I'm going off a live exploit here. When our opponent uses the same bet size twice in a row, I've seen this happen a lot, and it usually is weakness. So I think we could get him off, and if he does call, like I said, we have outs. So I jam for $300, and he snap calls 1 chip. I did not expect that. The river is an ace of spades. I show my cards, and our opponent looks very unhappy. Our opponent showed us king 8. I'm honestly shocked that he snapped us off with king 8 there. Like when he bets the same size twice in a row, I'm a little surprised my jam didn't get him off that, but it was a nice call by that guy and a lucky river for me. I feel like this session is actually just rewarding us for making maybe not the best plays, but who knows, man? Sometimes that's just how poker rolls, and our stack is moving in the right direction, and that direction is up. However, our whole cards are moving down. 8 deuce offsuit here, and you might be wondering, why are we looking at this hand? What does this hand have to do with anything? I'm on the straddle, and there's 3 limps. I check my option, and the flop comes 7-5-4 with 2 hearts. The action quickly checks around on the flop. The turn is the king of hearts and the action checks to me. Nobody's showing interest in this pot, so I decided to take a stab for $10, and we get one caller from the late position. I don't even know why I started to bluff in this. I only have $5 invested, and it's like a $20 pot, but the river comes, the 5 of diamonds, and I decide to jam all in for his last $69. I actually don't mind giving action and showing bluffs on these small pots, because if there's one thing I've learned from live cash games, you have to give action to get action. So I don't mind being a little splashy in the small pots, showing people that I like to throw bluffs around. That way nobody thinks I'm a nit at the table, because if you're really tight, you never bluff, people aren't going to pay you off in the big spots where you actually do have it. Either way, he actually ends up thinking for about 30 to 45 seconds before sticking in the call, and I let him know, I got 8 high, bro. And he shows us Jack 3 of hearts. The tank call on the river with the flush for his last $69. Hey man, you do you. Probably just been getting beat up all day by the bad beats, man. Nice hand, brother. Moving on here, we have the beautiful suited wheel. Ace 4 diamonds here. Under the gun makes it $15, and the low jack puts in the call. We're going to go for yet another squeeze. Playing a lot of poker in Texas, if you can isolate and get heads up, it's much easier to navigate post-flop. So that's what I do. I make it $60, but unfortunately, we do nothing else but juice up the pot. The under the gun calls and the low jack player calls. So we're going to have to battle post flop here when the flop comes 8-7-5, rainbow with a diamond. We flop a gut shot to the low end of the straight with a backdoor flush draw and an overcard. But when the action checks to me like I would expect it to, I'm going to put out a bet here. I want to act like I have 10s plus. I have an overpair. I 3-bet pre-flop. I want to act strong. So I make it $80. And if we do get called, like I said, we have some backdoor draws, and I'm ready to just open up the clip. When the under the gun player folds, that's pretty relieving, and the low jack decides to fold as well. We're going to take down a nice pot uncontested here. The session is going pretty good for us, and we look down at pocket 10s in the next one. There's 2 limps. I raise it up to $25, and we get 3 callers going 4 ways to a flop, which gives us another overpair, and it checks to me. I'm going to put out a bet of $60, and we get that one through as well. Picking up these nice little pots, and we're going to move on to yet another interesting hand, Ace 6 of hearts on the button. As the early position raised to $10 and 3 callers over to me. Now you might be thinking, let me guess, you're going to squeeze. I actually just decided to stick in the call here in position with the suited ace. I don't know. I've probably just been getting a little bit out of line this session anyway, so I wanted to just chill out, play a smaller pot, see what happens, see if we can hit a flop. So I put in the call, and the small blind and big blind put in the call as well. The good news is I have position on the entire hand, so that's very nice. And the flop gives us top pair, but not the top pair you're thinking of, 6-4-3. And the big blind bets out for $10. That's a 7th the size of the pot. When the hijack and cutoff call, the action's over to me. This seems like a board that the big blind's going to bet a lot, but I think if he actually had a hand, he definitely would have bet bigger. And if the hijack or cutoff had a decent hand better than ours, I think they would have raised it up. So we're going to raise it, see where we're at. We make it $55, and we get the big blind and hijack to fold. But I think the cutoff likes what he sees in his hand, so he sticks in the call, and we're going to go heads up to a turn card here, which is the 10 of hearts. It should be a pretty big brick unless he had 10x of spades that hit top pair. When the cutoff checks it over to me, I like a bet here because there's still a lot of draws we can get value from. Worst 6x, and we still need some protection from overcards. So I think putting out a bet here and checking back the river is the best play, which fortunately in the moment is what I decided to do. I made it $80. Like, we don't need to go massive. We just want him to call with all of his worst hands and draws and then get to showdown on the river. So he sticks in the call, and we go to a river, which isn't great, the 3 of spades. But when he checks to me, definitely going to be snap checking it back. He says he has a 6, and we can beat that. I show him my ace kicker, and he shows us king 6 of clubs. So a pretty gross flop there, actually, to give us both top pair. And we're going to win a nice little pot to end our session here at TCH. We got into that game for $775 and out for $1,630. That's a profit of $855. Not a bad session if I do say so myself. And we decide to head back over to Poker House to get a late night session in. Our buddy Joey comes with us as well. God, this place is so good. We definitely have a few interesting hands to go over. I have 10-7 offsuit on the big blind, and there's 4 limps over to me. I check my option, and we see a flop of 8-6-5 with 2 hearts. We flop open-ended here. The action's going to check over to the button, who decides to put out a bet of $10. When the small blind puts in the call, I could definitely come along and see a turn card. But you know me, I like to be aggressive. I check raise it up to $35, and the button apparently has a $35 hand because he sticks in the call. So we're going to go heads up to a turn card. The turn is the ace of clubs, and we started bluffing on the flop. I think we're going to have to continue here on the turn. Hopefully this ace scares him here. I bet out for $55, but he doesn't look too scared. He puts in the call, and we're going to try to hit either a 4 or a 9 on this river. Unfortunately, we don't get that. It's the 5 of diamonds. But here's the thing. We have 10 high, and if we check, we're going to lose. And I don't really like losing. I don't know about you guys. I bet out for $110. The button has a decision to make, but he makes the wrong one by folding his cards, and we actually showed the table. We're not messing around. We got a bluff here. The button would actually tell me that he had the exact same hand. Glad we decided to bet the river. We're going to move on to the next one. We finally have a Broadway of the suited variety. King Jack of diamonds here. There's one limp, and I raise it to $20. I'm pretty sure in poker, you have 3 options. You could either raise, you could call, or you could fold. But don't tell anybody at my table that, because we get 6 callers. We're going 7 ways to a flop, which comes king high. King, queen, deuce with 2 clubs. The under the gun player decides to lead out into the field for $10. That's right, a 14th the size of the pot. I don't know. I'm just going to treat that like he checked it over to me. So imagining that bet is not there, I'm going to bet out for $55. We narrow it down to heads up when just the under the gun player sticks in the call. So we're going to a turn card, which is a good looking jack of spades. We hit 2 pair here on the turn. When he checks it over to me, we're almost always going to have the best hand here, so we definitely need to bet for value and charge all of his draws. I decide on a size of $115. I really like a size of $170 to $200. Unfortunately, in the moment, I just decided to go $115, but eventually the under the gun player does stick in the call. And we see a river card, which is the deuce of clubs. It's not the best card. Front door flush draw gets there. And now the under the gun player decides to go for the good old donk lead for $100 here. It's nearly a 1/5 the size of the pot. We're getting a ridiculous price here. I think if he has a flush, we just have to pay him off. The bet is so small. The pot's too big. We can't fold. I stick in the call. And sure enough, he's got ace 6 of clubs. Dirty, dirty river card there. If the under the gun bet bigger on that, I probably could have got away, but not for that price. He had to squeak that extra bit of value out of me on the river. We're going to add on for $350 more to top our stack back up to $500. Now we look down at pocket 6s on the cutoff. There's 2 limps, and I raise it up to $25. We get a 3-bet from the small blind, but he min clicks it. He makes it $50. When the action folds back around to me, I would typically just fold pocket 6s to a 3-bet here. But when he just doubles it here, I'm getting a good price to set mine, so that's what I do. I stick in the call, and we're going to go heads up to a flop. And unfortunately, we don't hit a set here, but we hit quads. Queen 6-6. So sick, man. We flop quads, and even better, the small blind leads out into us. Oh my god, man, what is happening? He makes it $75 over to me. Definitely going to be slow playing this. I don't see a point in raising. If our opponent is bluffing, we want him to continue bluffing. And if he has a hand like a queen, kings, or aces, he's definitely just going to bet 3 streets for value. So I stick in the call, and we see the 5 of spades on the turn. I'm not joking. He bets out for $150. We're sitting here with the cojones, living life in Dallas, Texas, flopping quads, man. It doesn't get better than this. Again, just going to slow play. He has about 180 or so behind, so hopefully we get that all in on the river. Continuing the slow play, I stick in the call, and the river comes the queen of spades. Interesting card here. Obviously, it could be great if he has a queen, he's going broke. But if he has aces or kings, it's going to be a scare card for him. And technically, you know, we don't have the nuts anymore. We lose to pocket queens. But if that happens, so be it, man. It'll be the greatest title thumbnail of all time. Regardless, he goes all in for 170. Snappity, snippety, snappity call from me. I show him quads, and he can't believe it. He's shocked. And he shows me ace queen, man. So sick. He rivers a boat, and we have quads, man. But we're loving it here. The dealer pushes me the pot, and we are in the green on this session, about $150 up. This will be the last hand of the vlog. It is kind of interesting, though. King 9 of clubs here. I raise it up to $15 and get a call from 2 late position players, the hijack and button. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop. Unfortunately, I'm out of position, but the flop gives us top pair, 9-4-3, rainbow, with a club, so we have a backdoor flush draw to go along. I'm going to bet out here with my top pair. I make it $25, and we get both of the players to put in the call. The problem with a hand like this is there's so many cards that'll kill action for us on the turn. Luckily, though, the 7 of spades isn't one of them. I still think we need a bet for value here, so I size up. I'm going to make it $85 to go. We get 1 fold from the hijack, but the button is a little bit stickier. He decides to call. I think if the button had a better hand than us, he probably would have raised by now. This definitely isn't a very tight player. He likes to splash around and play in a lot of pots, so I really think we had the best hand here a lot of the time, especially when the river comes with 3 of spades. It's a great river for us. We still have top pair. We got a great kicker, so we're going to bet for value. $130 of my chips is going in the middle, and our opponent goes deep into the tank. I'm talking 3 or 4 minutes, hoping he has a hand like, I don't know, pocket 6s, pocket 5s, maybe like a worse 9 that wants to call. But in the end, he decides to let his cards go, and we're going to end the session with a W, scooping in that pot. It was a short session at Poker House, but it was a fun one, man. We got out of that game for $1,110, and we were in for $850, so a profit of $260. 2 winning cash game sessions on the day. I'll take it. Make sure you click that subscribe button because I'm going to be posting so many vlogs, dude. Thank you guys for all the love. I'll see you in the next one.